Ich wolle gut, 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 ich wolle gut.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Schellenberger. I'm the president of the Joppa Development and Heritage Corporation. I'd like to welcome you to the 2026 primary election forum for the Board of Education. We have candidates from districts A, B, and E tonight. The Joppa Development and Heritage Corporation doesn't usually involve itself with other parts of the county, not because we don't like other parts of the county, we just like to be hyper-focused. But we were asked to do this, and so we wanted to make sure that that would happen. I, first of all, need to start out tonight by apologizing to the candidates. I am so sorry. I've explained this to them, but I'll explain it to the internet. Because the Board of Education is a nonpartisan race, I just presumed that we would be having this forum at the general election time. But what's happening right now, in case you were unaware like I was, in Harford County, if there are more than 2 people running for 1 seat on the Board of Education, the primary is the mechanism that whittles us down from 3 or more, 4, 5, whatever, down to 2. So tonight, we will see 3 candidates, hopefully, from District B, and one of them will not advance to the general, while 2 will. There are 3 candidates in 4 different races, and we will have representatives from 3 of those races tonight. We'll introduce them as we go. Just before we get started, tonight's recording is going to be available at joppadhc.org, and you can also learn more about tonight's candidates at forum.joppadhc.org. And that's also, if you're watching this right now, you may be there at the moment, so that would be great. Here's all the people who are going to be here tonight. We have Shernice, Shermaine, Mundell, is that right? Good. And Dani Paez from District A. Also running in that race is Donna Blasdell, but she could not make it tonight. She sends her regrets. Then in District B, we are scheduled to have all 3 of Keri Geibler, Dominic Heath, and Christian Licier. Is that right? Licier? Okay, sorry. I should have asked you before I started this. And then in District E, we have Matt Jones, who's here tonight, and Aaron Boyle and Robert Wagner couldn't make it tonight. So sorry that they couldn't make it. We have seen some instances of candidates who couldn't make or weren't invited to the previous forums record their own responses, so we may see that. Who knows? I want to just go over what we're going to see here tonight. This is not a debate. It's an opportunity for candidates to lay out their plans to advance our community in each area of focus highlighted by the questions that were provided in advance. Each candidate will be given 2.5 minutes to answer each question, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. The 3-person round robin is a little tougher than the 2-person round robin, and the 1-person round robin is even easier than all of those. The 4th question is not so much a question as it is 2.5 minutes for candidates to pick a topic of their choosing and talk about that. They can introduce themselves, they can talk about something that they're passionate about, whatever it may be. And I do want to say real quick that if you would like to see not just the Board of Education candidates, but also the candidates for the Republican or Democratic primary forums, you can see those on our website, joppadhc.org as well. I think that's all for now, so we're going to get started with our District A candidates. So Shernice, Shermaine, Mundell, and Dani Paez, if you could come up here, then we will get started. All right. I used a random number generator to get our order tonight, and it turned out to be alphabetical. So, Ms. Mundell, you are first. Here is your first question. Board members must balance the competing interests of diverse stakeholders, including students, parents, educators, and taxpayers. In your view, which of these groups constitutes your primary responsibility, and how will you ensure their voices are heard?
Well, the students are my primary responsibility. And I'm going to work with the parents, educators, and taxpayers, but I will always make sure the best interests of the students are put first. I'll make sure that their voices are heard by first listening to them and bringing their concerns back to the board members, making sure their concerns and issues are known and addressed by each of
Much. Ms. Paez. It's the same question, but I'm going to read it again so you get the same experience. And by the way, you're hearing all of these questions 6 times tonight, so have fun with them. Board members must balance the competing interests of diverse stakeholders, including students, parents, educators, and taxpayers. In your view, which of these groups constitutes your primary responsibility, and how will you ensure that their voices are heard?
As a board member, my primary responsibility is to serve the best interest of students, since their education, safety, and well-being are at the core of the school system's mission. I believe that every decision made should ultimately benefit the students and help create an environment where they can thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. So to ensure their voices are heard, I will prioritize establishing and maintaining effective communication channels such as student advisory councils and feedback surveys that allow students to share their authentic experiences and concerns directly. Additionally, I will collaborate closely with the educators, their parents, and community organizations such as this to gather a diverse range of perspectives and ensure that policies reflect the needs of the entire student body. I also recognize the importance of engaging students and their families through town halls, forums, and community events as much as possible, making sure that their input influences my decisions ultimately. I want to foster an inclusive and responsive environment. I aim to create a school system that truly listens and adapts to the needs of our students.
Thank you very much. The next question goes to you first, so just stay put. Board decisions on curriculum and educational materials often draw intense public scrutiny. How will you approach these topics?
So addressing curriculum and education materials requires very careful but transparent and inclusive approaches. I believe that decisions in these areas should be rooted in educational research, best practices, and a commitment to equity and inclusion. I will start by fostering open dialogue amongst the educators, students, parents, and community members, encouraging honest conversations about what is taught and why. It's crucial that curriculum's decisions are transparent and involve public review processes so that community members do feel confident that materials are appropriate, accurate, and aligned with educational standards. I will advocate for curriculums that promote critical thinking, cultural understanding, and preparing students for a diverse and changing world. Additionally, I will ensure that any revisions or updates to educational materials are communicated clearly and thoroughly, avoiding misinformation and misconceptions. Ultimately, my goal is to create an educational environment where diverse perspectives are respected and students receive a well-rounded education that prepares them for a lifetime of success. And ultimately, I do want to lean into these experts in these fields. We have these teachers that we send our kids off to, lean on them. They're the ones who know a lot about what they're doing. I'm not a pre-K teacher. I can talk about English, I can talk about social studies, but I cannot talk about math. So I'm going to lean on the people who are experts in their fields.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mundell. Board decisions on curriculum and educational materials often draw intense public scrutiny. How will you approach these topics?
Well, as a product of Baltimore City public school system, and I am a mother of 3 kids that went through Harford County public schools. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm someone who values diversity, equity, and inclusion. I understand that our schools serve students from many different backgrounds. I believe that our curriculum should reflect the diversity while maintaining high academic standards as well. My focus will be on student achievement, educational excellence, and ensuring every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Curriculum decisions should be approached by reviewing evidence-based research, listening to diverse perspectives, and focusing on what helps all students succeed. These decisions should be made through a transparent process that includes educators, parents, students, and community members while respecting professional expertise and state education.
Very much. Ms. Paez. To secure necessary funding, the school system must maintain the trust of the public who are looking for budget transparency and efficiency. What measures will you take to ensure that funds are clearly and directly tied to student and school needs?
So, so transparency and accountability in budgeting are vital to not only maintaining public trust, but ensuring that our funds are being used effectively to support student achievement. So I will champion a transparent budget process that involves clear documentation on how funds are allocated and spent at every level. This includes regular financial reports, public audits that are already happening, and accessible summaries that explain how taxpayer dollars are supporting classrooms, extracurricular activities, infrastructure, and essential programs. I will support opportunities for community members to participate in budget discussions through forums, surveys, and advisory committees, ensuring that all the voices can influence financial decisions. To promote the efficiency, I will advocate for data-driven assessments of programs' effectiveness, making sure that the resources are being directed towards initiatives that demonstrate improvement in student outcomes. Additionally, I will push for continuous reviews and optimization for expenditures to eliminate the waste and redundancies, to ensuring that every dollar is directly tied to tangible needs within schools. I want to foster a culture of transparency and accountability. I believe that we build greater trust and ensure that funding truly enhances education quality for all our students.
To secure necessary funding,
Well, I always want to be transparent. Taxpayers, families, educators, and community members deserve to know how funds are being spent and how those investments are benefiting students. As a board member, I would support clear and accessible budget reporting that shows how resources are allocated and how those expenses connect to student achievement, school safety, mental health services, special education, teacher support, and other critical student needs. Budget information should be presented in a way that is understandable to the public, not just financial experts. As a taxpaying citizen, I understand the importance of accountability for taxpayer dollars. My commitment is to ensure that every budget decision is centered on what best supports students, strengthens our schools, and provides the greatest value to our community.
Thank you. Stay there. You're up next. This is a topic of your choice. To maintain a respectful and constructive environment, this segment must focus exclusively on your own positions and may not be used to reference or critique other participants.
Well, this was last year. I was a federal employee, and I was one of the employees that was fired by the administration. So experiencing a job loss through no fault of my own was a turning point in my life. It forced me to learn how systems work, advocate for myself, and become actively involved in processes that affects people's lives. Through that experience, I learned that change does not happen when we sit on the sidelines. It happens when people step forward and make their voices heard. That experience strengthened my belief in fairness, transparency, and accountability. It also reminded me that decisions made by leaders and institutions have real impacts on families and communities. If I wanted to see change, I realized I needed to be part of creating that change. That is one of the reasons I decided to run for Board of Education. I want to be a strong advocate for students, parents, educators in our community. I want to ensure that every decision is made with transparency, equity, and student success at the forefront. As a mother of three children, two that attended Harford County Public Schools, an Air Force veteran, a former federal employee, and someone who has faced challenges firsthand, I understand the importance of standing up for others. I'm running because I believe every student deserves the opportunity to succeed, every family deserves to be heard, and our schools deserve leaders who are willing to listen, learn, and act.
Very much. Ms. Paez, this is a topic of your choice. To maintain a respectful and constructive environment, this segment must focus exclusively on your own positions and may not be used to reference or critique other participants.
I'm going to take this time to introduce myself. I'm Dani Paez. I am the daughter of immigrants. I was a free and reduced lunch kid. I was an ESOL kid. I'm American-born ESOL kid. For those who don't know, English as a second language. I moved down here in first grade. I went to Magnolia for my first year, and I did all my other schooling through Edgewood High School. I am a product of District A schooling. I'm a proud product of District A schooling. I think that we have a great system, and I love our school system. I love this community, and that is why I'm running, because I know that this community is great. I know our teachers are great. I have seen them work tirelessly personally. And with that, that is why I'm running. But I'm really championing the voices of our community. While I am the youngest person running in general, I'm passionate. I am ready to jump in. I am learning already. I'm getting my master's in public administration currently, and I am making connections every day to our school systems. I have connected with some folks in the central office who are willing to support. I am endorsed by our union. I am endorsed by our county council person and our delegate here in District A and 34. And that support is what also drives me and thrives for me. And I know that I will be one of many voices, and I'm already ready to reach across and try and do everything I can to support the students by talking to those around me. I am constantly talking with people and learning what their needs, what they see. I don't have a child in the school system, but I like to say I want to be your villager, because it takes a village to build up a child, and I'm ready to be a villager. I don't need stakes in it, because this is our future. Kids are our future. That is the big enough stake for me to feel like I should be out here fighting for our students.
Thank you very much. And that concludes District A for tonight. Just a reminder that both of these candidates could advance depending on the results of the primary election, and then we may see them back in the general. We're going to take a few minutes just to get everything situated for District B, so hang tight, and we'll be back just real quick to handle all of District B, I hope. Okay, so we just received word that one of our candidates actually probably can't make it tonight, so I'm going to invite up the two candidates that are here. First up, we have Dominic Heath, who is running for Board of Education District B, and Christian Licier, also running for Board of Education District B. And as it was with District A, both of these candidates could advance to the general. We are in the primary, which is trying to whittle 3 down to 2. So that's where we stand. The first question for this segment is going to go to Mr. Licier. Mr. Licier, board members must balance the competing interests of diverse stakeholders, including students, parents, educators, and taxpayers. In your view, which of these groups constitutes your primary responsibility, and how will you ensure that their voices are heard?
Good evening. So the Board of Education is an elected body because it represents the community, the taxpayers, and the children that they're raising. Our job is to oversee the goals and direction of the school district on their behalf. All stakeholders want the district to succeed, but how we get there isn't always agreed upon. That's why it's essential for the board to remain impartial. Sometimes that means supporting teachers when they're right and communicating that clearly to the superintendent. Sometimes it means backing the superintendent as she drives the changes the district needs, even when that means stepping on toes. A good board knows the difference and acts accordingly. It'd be dishonest to come to this role making promises to any group inside the system, knowing those promises might conflict with the community's interest down the road. We're elected to represent the public, not the adults who work in the building. That's why I made a deliberate choice not to seek endorsement from the teachers union. The union's stated mission is to represent teacher interests, not student interests and not community interests. Recently, they've made clear that they also carry their own political agenda. None of that is centered on delivering a high-quality academic product. That's my focus. I'm not here to be against teachers. Many of them are doing extraordinary work under difficult conditions. But I am here to make sure that no single group's interests take priority over what's best for kids.
Very much. Mr. Heath. Board members must balance the competing interests of diverse stakeholders, including students, parents, educators, and taxpayers. In your view, which of these groups constitutes your primary responsibility, and how will you ensure their voices are heard?
So, excuse me. Students are my primary responsibility. Education, safety, transparency. Everything I do is in service of bettering their education. As far as how I will reach out to the voices of the community, by doing what I've been doing throughout my campaign, speaking directly with constituents, with parents, teachers, and even students. Yesterday, for example, I met with 3 parents in Bel Air, and we spoke for over 2 hours. I'm going to be visiting their community next week to meet with their entire neighborhood. I want to have monthly meetings at different parts of my district to sit down and hear their input and concerns. Currently, our only way to speak to the board is at the meetings. And I don't know about the rest of you, but every time I go there and speak, it's very much a one-way street. Public commentary goes on and on. Board comes back. Sometimes they respond to what we've got going on. Sometimes they just choose to discuss something that's meaningful to them. I don't hate them for that. It would be better if we had a discussion. I want to know what your concerns are. I want to know how I can best address those concerns, and I want to do that with you all together. Thank you.
Then, whoops, stay there. Sorry. Yeah, your first step on this question, and for the record, the next question too. Board decisions on curriculum and educational materials often draw intense public scrutiny. How will you approach these topics?
For curriculums, in my planned community meetings, I will listen to the concerns of the community. I have heard a lot of outcry from parents, but when we look at concerns, we need to focus on the facts. And that's something I don't feel like we've been doing well as a community. We need to scrutinize. With any concerns about curriculum, we need to focus on facts about performances, the concerns the community has, the exemption processes that may or may not exist. I will state, for sure, I am against banning books. There are age ranges for books, and we have librarians there to enforce them. Restriction of information does us no good as a society. We should be working at age-appropriate levels to broaden the range of our children's knowledge because they are our future.
Nope. Well, you're first, the next question, but Mr. Licier has to answer
Good
this
idea.
one first. So, Mr. Licier. Board decisions on curriculum and educational materials often draw intense public scrutiny. How will you approach these topics?
Curricula are the knowledge and skills students learn to meet core standards, the base goals every student has to achieve. Maryland standards are closely aligned to Common Core, which, despite the controversy, is actually pretty rigorous. So why do we keep getting outperformed internationally? That's a bigger topic of conversation. When a school system builds a curriculum, they either purchase a product from a company or invest heavily having their own staff create one. Either way, there's constant testing, reteaching, and retesting to make sure kids are on track. In an ideal world, fast learners accelerate, on-track kids stay comfortable, and struggling kids get the extra support they need. But that ideal almost never happens. Here's the core problem. Because so much is riding on test scores, administrators can't afford to let teachers be creative. They paid a fortune for the research curriculum, and they need teachers to stick to the script, a script that itself requires enormous training and preparation. And when a key teacher goes on unexpected leave, that entire class can fall behind for the year, and there's rarely a qualified substitute ready to step in. So there's also the real concern about ideological framing in curriculum content. And when teachers aren't trusted to make material engaging on their own, that framing gets baked in by whoever packaged the curriculum. My recommendations: strong curricula with built-in assessments, fewer district-wide standard assessments, AI-assisted individualization. Most importantly, give teachers back the freedom to make learning rich and engaging. We're punishing intellectualism and creativity by building a culture of fear around test scores. Your vote can change that.
Thank you. Mr. Heath, you're up first this time. To secure necessary funding, the school system must maintain the trust of the public who are looking for budget transparency and efficiency. What measures will you take to ensure that funds are clearly and directly tied to student and school needs?
So I will sit and review budget requests to ensure justification and accountability for all spending. I will hold the school responsible fiscally. But I will also support giving them what they need because that need is supporting our students. I will ensure that their request has been justifiable, but we do have to spend money to educate our children. I will advocate for our students by advocating for the needs of the school. And let's be clear about those needs because our schools have been underfunded for years. Ooh. Not helping. Anyway, for example, in 2023, the county executive took $10 million out of our operating budget. We went from $324 million in 2023 to $314 million in 2024. That means if we were just continuing with a moderate 5% increase over the years, our budget for schools based on 324 through 2023 up till now should be $370 million. No one would be complaining about a 5% increase year over year. What is the schools asking for this year? $348 million. They have cut every measure that they can to keep our students educated. But the rest of the team isn't playing that. I plan to advocate for your students and make sure that they get the investment that they need. Sometimes it costs money to invest in our future. Our children is the best way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Licier. To secure necessary funding, the school system must maintain the trust of the public who are looking for budget transparency and efficiency. What measures will you take to ensure that funds are clearly and directly tied to student and school needs?
To ensure district funds are allocated with transparency and efficiency and aligned to our district blueprint, the board must be part of the building the budget from the start, not just voting on it at the end. When I began exploring this role, I spoke with current board members, and what I learned was troubling. Under the previous superintendent, the budget was simply handed to the board to approve at the tail end of the process. That lack of oversight is part of the reason, probably, why the district found itself facing a deficit of over $60 million. Now, I don't want to oversimplify things either. Some may look at HCPS and see overspending on pay increases, pet projects, and non-essentials. But much of what the system funds is actually driven by state-mandated programs, requirements that the district has no choice but to meet. That said, I can't in good conscience promise to support increased school funding until the process itself becomes transparent and accountable. The common sense solution is to keep board members at the table when the budget is being built, not after. Once that's in place, we have to evaluate every single program and every position against one standard. Does it serve the blueprint? If it doesn't, it moves from a must-have to a would-like, and tough decisions have to follow. I've been through this at the school level. It's never easy. People worry, stakeholders push back, but on the other side of that hard work, something shifts. The noise fades, and what's left is a clearer picture of who we are, what we stand for, and exactly where every dollar is going. That clarity breeds with families, with staff members, and with the community trust. And from that trust grows hope. Not in the hope of wishful thinking, but the kind grounded in the plan and accountability and results. That is what this district deserves. It can happen.
Thank you. You're up first for this next question, Mr. Licier. This is a topic of your choice. To maintain a respectful and constructive environment, this segment must focus exclusively on your own positions and may not be used to reference or critique other participants.
Okay, I've always had a passion for learning, and I discovered it right here in this community at Riverside Elementary. I went to Magnolia Middle, went to St. Stephen's, and Falston High, but it's especially Falston High that got going. My teachers were tough. They pushed me to think critically, and that changed everything for me. When I became a teacher myself, it was profound to work right alongside some of those same people that had been my teachers before. The education from both sides of the bench. There's nothing quite like a student finding you years later and telling you that you were the one that changed their life. And there's nothing quite like developing an idea to improve a school, putting it into place, and watching it work, watching teachers grow, watching students learn. That's why we do this. I want to keep sharing that with the community that I love, especially now while my own children walk the same hallways that I once did. But I have to be honest with you, it's been deeply discouraging and frankly embarrassing to learn what I've learned about how this district is led. Our kids and our educators deserve so much better. So here's what I believe, and that's why I'm standing here today. I believe this can be the best district in Maryland, but getting there means we have to be relentless about academics. We have to filter out the noise, the political ideology that has no business creeping into our classrooms, and we have to solve the real problems head on: budget, discipline, curriculum. The superintendent we select is going to have to be a genuine changing agent. The superintendent that we selected has to be a genuine change agent. That means making hard calls. It means stepping on toes. And our job as a board will be to make sure that she has our full support and to make sure she never loses sight of who she wants to be. Not special interests, not the state board, the families and the kids of this community.
Thank you. Mr. Heath. This is a topic of your choice. To maintain a respectful and constructive environment, this segment must focus exclusively on your own positions and may not be used to reference or critique other participants.
I'm going to choose to talk about myself for this time because I want everyone to know me. I live with my wife in Falston with my 2 kids. I have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. They both will be, one is already in youth benefit and the other one will be in. I have been doing supply chain management for 22 years. I manage hundreds of millions of dollars of budget spend every year. My job is heavily into detail, analysis, and KPIs. That's key performance indicators. I use those and run metrics and projections for my company specifically about spend. I use those indicators to determine our success. I set standards and processes for all of my company. I care about success. I want to bring that care to home. I want that success to be our kids. I care about our kids. I care about our future. I'm a stickler for details and data. I drive most of my friends crazy on details. But on that note, I want to be clear about something. We can disagree on the best way to achieve something. But the main priority here will be the education of our students. I know I'm not going to be capable of knowing everything, so I will base all of my decisions on experts and evidence. I will always search for the truth, the facts, not the feelings. I will follow the rules, the laws, and the regulations that apply because I believe in our teachers and our schools. I think we have some of the greatest people here. I'm not here for fame or ego. I'm definitely not here for the money. I'm here for our kids. And at the core of all of our actions, our students' education and safety should be the focus. Let's accomplish that together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our segment for District B. Next up, we will have the candidate for District E. This should be a quick turnover, but we will just pause for a brief moment just to make sure everything's in place. Okay, and now I am pleased to introduce Matt Jones, who is the candidate for District E, and he is running against two others who couldn't make it tonight. You may or may not see their answers, but this will be a pretty quick and easy all the way through. We don't have to stand up and sit down, but if you would like to take a rest or something, we can make sure that that happens. All right. Hey, I have a question. Board members must balance the competing interests of diverse stakeholders, including students, parents, educators, and taxpayers. In your view, which of these groups constitutes your primary responsibility, and how will you ensure that their voices are heard?
Instinctually, I want to say the students are my number one priority. However, this question isn't addressing how each of the stakeholders works in a cyclical fashion. We are all running for the Board of Education, and by definition, that would imply that our primary responsibility is to the educators. We are all elected by the constituents, and that would imply a primary responsibility to the taxpayers, especially since our salary will be paid for by using taxpayer funds. But while instinct suggests that students are the main priority because all of this is for them, they are minors, and so their parents must be involved in everything concerning their children. Each stakeholder impacts the next, and each one is just as important as the other. That is one of the major issues that we are facing right now. We tend to get so focused on one stakeholder that we neglect the others. Aside from the obvious public meetings where we are all welcome to voice our opinions and concerns, I have made it clear since day one that I will have a literal and figurative open door policy. I welcome all to feel comfortable approaching me, whether in person or through correspondence, even if they have a differing opinion. Once elected, I represent all students, not just the ones whose parents voted for me. It is very important to me that I am as transparent as possible, which is also why I plan to publish all decisions that are made along with my particular vote and reasoning behind it. Even if the public doesn't agree, I want them to feel included and to be able to acknowledge that I have held true to my promise of transparency throughout my entire term.
Thank you. Are you ready to go to the next question? Okay. Board decisions on curriculum and educational materials often draw intense public scrutiny. How will you approach these topics?
From the beginning of my campaign, I have made it crystal clear that I am against book banning and the banning of all other educational materials that have been deemed appropriate for our students. The faculty, particularly the librarians, are the ones who make those decisions. They have spent on average 8 or more years learning how to do such tasks. On that same note, I have also made it known from day one that I believe educators should feel empowered to create their own individualized curriculum as long as it falls within state and local regulations for that class and age level. They have also spent years in college to learn how to be educators, not to mention that continuing education that is required as their career progresses. Our educators and the faculty members of our schools are experts in their fields. We hired them for a reason, and we need to trust that they will be successful on their own terms. However, parents are still encouraged to be involved in the process of their child's education and feel empowered to voice concerns when they feel it is necessary, but they should not have the authority to invoke their personal beliefs on the education of the rest of the students who would be impacted. One parent's personal beliefs should not dictate what other children learn as a result. That is not what education is. Education is about exposure in order to help foster creative and independent thinking and the development of critical thinking skills. Anything less would only serve as a disservice to the students.
To secure necessary funding, the school system must maintain the trust of the public who are looking for budget transparency and efficiency. What measures will you take to ensure that funds are clearly and directly tied to student and school needs?
As stated before, I believe in transparency, and I plan on publishing all decisions voted upon by the board, what my vote was, and the reasoning behind my vote. Part of that transparency includes a breakdown of all funds and their appropriate allocations. Something I hope to be able to do, if not already part of the process, is conduct local follow-ups, a time when I can tour the various schools in my district and hopefully county and see firsthand that these funds are being displaced accordingly. Of course, my findings and anything else that pertains to these follow-ups would be discussed publicly. In addition, I want the public to know that we are only as effective as the budget allows us to be. I want the public to be aware of all of our efforts to have the budget increased and make it known who is restricting access to such funds and why. They deserve to know that our budget is how it is appropriated goes beyond the Board of Education and is decided by other leaders. We have to make the best with what we were given, and the public has the right to see that to the full level of transparency.
And now it's time for a topic of your choice. To maintain a respectful and constructive environment, this segment must focus exclusively on your own positions and may not be used to reference or critique other participants.
Before I leave, I want to make sure that everyone here tonight knows my other key points of interest. I plan on trying to increase the salary and create a more comprehensive benefits package for all of our educators and faculty. I believe the most effective way to attract the best educators and to retain them is to show them that our county is willing to invest in their financial success. They shouldn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make a minimum salary required to survive. We ask a lot of them, and yet their paychecks don't reflect that level of importance. I believe in every child having access to free breakfast and lunch. We are all suffering in our current economy. Parents shouldn't have to struggle trying to feed their children. If access to free breakfast and lunch allows children to focus on their studies and not when they will have their next meal, then I think it is worth it. Our students also deserve to go to school feeling safe and welcomed. Inclusivity is one of my primary focuses. Regardless of one's race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic background, or any other identifying quality someone may possess, no student should ever feel excluded or unwanted. Every child is a valuable asset to this world and the greatest investment this county could ever ask for. It is time we put our money where our mouth is and invest in our students, invest in their education, and invest in the educators and staff who provide that education. We have all the tools at our disposal. Now is the time to prove that we can use those tools and truly build something worth noting. Lately, Harford County and its Board of Education have made national attention on more than one occasion, and not for anything good. You as voters have a chance to change that and make a difference. Voice your opinions and spread the word to others who are hesitating to head to the polls. There are candidates like myself who truly care. I am not a career politician. I have no children, much less any in the school system. I'm running because I have a passion for this county and its future. I am not the only one. People show up to the polls in the next few weeks either for early voting or on the day for the primaries. And if you are in my area, District E, vote for me, Matt Jones, for the Harford County Board of Education.
Thank you very much. And not only does that conclude District E's time tonight, but that concludes everything. I must commend all of you Board of Education people because I didn't once have to cut anybody off for time. So you were organized with your thoughts, and I appreciate that greatly. Before we get out of here, tonight's recording will be available on JDHC.org. You can also ask questions for the general election forums, which will be coming up after the primary at forum.japadhc.org. So feel free, if you're watching this right now, to make your voice heard so that we can know what to ask these people when they get to the general election forum in probably August, September, October, somewhere in that area. I really do commend all of you who participated tonight. This is a noble task that you are pursuing, and I appreciate the hard work that you're putting into it. We also have an opportunity for other candidates who are here to come up and introduce yourselves if you want to. Nope. Why are you raising your hand then? Yes, they can submit questions. We will review them and decide if they're good or not. At the end of the day, I am the final arbiter for our questions because I'm the one who has to make the PowerPoint. And it briefly annoys me that I spent more time on the PowerPoint than this forum was tonight. But again, that's how organized you were with your thoughts, so I appreciate that. All right, any other candidates want to come up and talk? All right. Oh, do you want to? Come on up. Yeah, just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Johnson. I am running for Board of Ed in District D. If you have a question for me, please email me. My web address is www.rochellejohnson.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And my final comment, I would just like to thank Stephen Hackman, who is in the back. He runs everything back there and just makes my life so much easier when he's back there. So thank you, Steve. I really appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you, everybody, for participating tonight. I hope you have a safe night and a safe trip home.